Coming up on the Sky News Daily with me, Niall Paterson. Allegations about his sexual misconduct kick-started the Me Too movement. Now, Harvey Weinstein is back in court, facing retrial after his convictions for rape and sexual assault were overturned. With hit movie after hit movie, he was one of the biggest names in Hollywood. But Harvey Weinstein was not all that he seemed. A series of women went public, claiming that he used his power and influence over them. In the wake of their testimony, the Me Too campaign was born. Weinstein, well, he was accused of harassment, assault and rape. His disgrace was complete when he was sent to prison, sentenced to decades behind bars. Now he is back in court, facing retrial after his first two convictions for assault and rape were overturned. Our arts and entertainment correspondent, Katie Spencer, is here. Katie, look, I've already described Harvey Weinstein as one of Hollywood's biggest names. I'm not overplaying it, am I?
Oh, no, absolutely. He was such a powerful player within Tinseltown that he was both feared and adored in equal measure at his peak. I mean, his production house, the Weinstein Company, was just this industry in itself worth millions because him and his brother just absolutely knew how to pick a good movie. You cannot deny that. Some of the hits that they predicted early on, Pulp Fiction, Good Will Hunting, Shakespeare in Love, films that went on to win, certainly Shakespeare in Love went on to win Oscars. Before his downfall, there was a joke about when people were winning their Oscars, he used to be thanked more than God or people's agent because he was just such a powerful figure within Hollywood.
But when that fall from grace came, it certainly came with a bang. Just explain exactly what happened.
For some time, it had been a little bit of an open secret about his behaviour and rumours swirling about misconduct, but no journalists certainly were able for a long time to stand up the claims. One of the first people to go on the record was the rocker Courtney Love, who there's a very early interview with her on the red carpet saying, look, if I was offering anyone advice when they come to Hollywood, it's don't be left in a room with Harvey Weinstein. But his behaviour through various sort of lawyers who worked for him tended to be hushed up for many, many years through the NDAs that he put in place with various people. But on October the 5th, 2017, the New York Times managed to get the story across the line. Several women, including actress Ashley Judd, accused the movie producer of sexual harassment. And this then basically caused this momentum of the story to just unfold, with numerous people then being brave enough to come forward with their accounts of incidents and encounters that they'd had with Harvey Weinstein. We talk about House of Cards tumbling down, but he was sacked from his own company. His second wife left him. He ended up in a rehab for sex addiction, and then ultimately charged with rape and sexual assault, for which he was convicted in 2020.
So the conviction came, but ultimately you and I are talking today, Katie, because his lawyers have managed to secure a retrial on those original charges.
Yes, because that original trial was actually deemed to be unfair. We know that during that 2020 trial, the judge allowed women who weren't connected with the charges that Harvey Weinstein was facing to give evidence to indicate a pattern of Harvey Weinstein's behaviour. So talking about unrelated incidents. Since then, Harvey Weinstein and his team have gone back to the appeals court and said, well, that can't be fair when we're talking about when he was charged with these specific incidents. So when this is heard again, the retrial itself is just going to be dealing with the two old counts that were in the original trial, which is that of Jessica Mann, an aspiring actress who claims she was raped by Harvey Weinstein, and Miriam Haley, who was a production assistant who says she was sexually assaulted by him. And there's a new charge that's been added.
Just explain what's going on with the new charge.
That in itself has already proven to be a little bit contentious in itself, because Harvey Weinstein's team have argued for the prosecution to be adding a new charge 5 years on from the original trial. They have argued that it seems to be the prosecution held back this original charge of a woman who has been allowed to preserve her anonymity for this, who claims she was sexually assaulted by Harvey Weinstein in a hotel. But his team argue, well, if you had this 5 years ago in this account, you should have told us that at the time, and it's wrong for you now to add this charge all these years later.
And no doubt there will be legal arguments on that point when this thing gets started. But Harvey Weinstein, I mean, his defence is that he's innocent, isn't it? He denies that anything that has taken place was other than consensual.
Yeah, he absolutely, throughout this, has maintained that he is absolutely innocent. He isn't a rapist. He didn't sexually assault anyone, is his defence. He said that he has behaved badly over the years, and yes, he has cheated on his wife, but he maintains, and he is wanting to argue in court, his team have said, that he is not a rapist and he has not sexually assaulted anyone.
His definition of bad behaviour can somewhat be stretched in all of this. I mean, didn't Harvey Weinstein himself write a letter, an open letter, to the New York Times after they made those original allegations, in which he admitted far more than simply being a bit of a bad boy?
Oh yes, and the letter itself is pretty damning in terms of how he comes across in his character. But he by no means in that letter has ever admitted that he was a rapist or that he sexually assaulted, but he does admit that his behaviour was out of keeping, out of step. He says in the letter that he's a man from the 70s and 80s, and there were different standards to which people were being upheld at the time, and that he came to realise when he was called out for his behaviour that he had been behaving in a bad way, but he doesn't admit that he has ever raped or sexually assaulted or done anything criminal in itself.
We're going to have to wait and see exactly what happens with the retrial, of course. But even if Harvey Weinstein is successful, I mean, he's not getting out of prison. Why?
Absolutely not, because he was found guilty separately of another rape in Los Angeles. Now, he is actually trying to appeal that case as well. So he would absolutely love to be a free man, but he still has to serve 16 years in jail for that case.
Does Harvey Weinstein have any support? I mean, Hollywood abandoned him in droves when that New York Times article came out, and plenty of people didn't like him in the first place. But there are still those who do support him.
Certainly there are a lot of voices coming out within the last half a year, really, or so, of people that are very supportive of the fact that Harvey Weinstein has been given this retrial and the chance for his case to be heard. One of them being conservative commentator Candace Owens, who at the end of February, she did a podcast calling him an immoral man, but questioning the government and prosecutors, saying that her faith in the US court system was beginning to change, and that she was wondering if courtrooms in America have been politicised. And not only that, also podcaster Joe Rogan has recently come out in support, saying that he originally thought he was guilty of heinous crimes, but that he now feels that he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Joe Rogan saying that if his trial had happened in the 80s, he believes that it probably would have been thrown out, which elicited a response from Weinstein himself, who issued a statement saying he's absolutely deeply grateful to Joe for, as he put it, the thoughtful examination of the legal challenges that he's facing. So there are people that are coming out in support of him now.
People coming out in support of, let's remember, someone convicted of sexual offences. I mean, look, this was the start of something bigger, the Me Too movement. I mean, first, just remind us how it actually did get started.
The Me Too movement had existed as a concept before then, but when Harvey Weinstein's the details of exactly what he had done emerged in this New York Times article, it just prompted this sort of real desire for people online to share and swap stories, because there were so many allegations that were being made against Harvey Weinstein, certainly. And look, people like Gwyneth Paltrow, who said that when she was 22, she had an incident with Harvey where he'd asked her to give him a massage in a hotel, and Brad Pitt had to intervene. So it was these sort of incidents that had been hushed up for many years, behaviour that had been hushed up privately within Hollywood. People were sharing, women were sharing all of their accounts of these awful behaviour that they'd stayed silent with. And it took a movement like the Me Too movement to actually empower a lot of women to feel like they could stand up to these powerful men who'd bullied a lot of women into silence before then.
Pretty much every woman that we meet will have at some point encountered awful behaviour at the hands of a man. But did this really start a broader conversation about that? Or was it just a flash in the pan, a moment in the zeitgeist?
No, I absolutely fundamentally believe that it has been a real catalyst for change. Certainly, I mean, look, there's tangible evidence of how sort of change has been introduced from a perspective of, if you take just movie making, television making, the introduction of basic safety measures of having like nudity coaches and people on the set at moments when actors feel at their most vulnerable. It's only right that they should be able to sort of have a voice on set when they're filming and things like that. But aside from that, if you take the sort of Hollywood acting thing away from this on a very real basis, in a way that can sort of change all of our lives, what it's done for making people aware in terms of NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and how we are now all aware of the sort of tricks and the way that legally powerful people can use and manipulate the law in terms of sort of silencing people. And there has been legal changes as a result of those conversations that we've had. Certainly in Ireland, in Canada, and in the US, it's produced legislative change. You cannot dispute the fact that the Me Too movement has done so much in terms of starting a conversation and a dialogue that just wasn't there before.
But are we truly any closer to understanding, let alone tackling, the root causes of male violence and male sexual violence against women? I mean, you could say right now that people like Andrew Tate are more influential, are more powerful than they were a handful of years ago, even despite the Me Too movement.
There is no getting away from the fact that we have become so polarised within the whole world, really. The growth of the manosphere, and I mean, look, having a president in America who's been accused of a string of sexual misconduct allegations, which he denies, it certainly hasn't helped. It does feel, to an extent, that within the last year or so, within the last 2 years, maybe I'd say, it does feel like certainly it's polarised, and the conversations are getting more sort of extreme on both sides.
Do you think the Me Too movement has had its day?
No, absolutely not. And I still think it's got a long, long way to go until we get that sort of tangible change, certainly in this country, in terms of changing the law and how NDAs are used to silence victims of misconduct from powerful people. What sort of disappoints me slightly at the moment is that it has become weaponised against them almost. Harvey Weinstein's publicist herself described the conviction, the 2020 conviction very recently, as a social justice witch hunt. And if you're describing the Me Too movement as a witch hunt, it's a very sort of polarised conversations between the right and the left over this. I think whenever there are powerful people in powerful positions, it's very hard to eradicate bullying and misconduct in that respect. But it does feel like, if anything has come from the conversations that were spawned from Me Too, it's surely that people feel a bit more empowered nowadays to call out behaviour.
Katie, thanks very much.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for having me.
And you can follow the retrial. Just head to skynews.com. The Daily is back tomorrow.